Yes, sir. Understood. We'll make it happen. Alright, you lot. We've got the first game coming up from this Shroomraver fucker. Orders from up top. Make him lose.
Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome to our first game of Stage 1 of PPL NX. Yes indeed, this kind of off-season PPL league that we have got going. We're in Stage 1 of this. There are multiple stages to this league. I don't fully know how it works, very few people do, but it's going to be exciting no matter what. We've got some fun new mods we've never used before. Our first game is going to be up against KSaun and the Toronto Razor Leafs. His links down in the description below with everyone else. Make sure you check them out. Nasty team that they've got going on with Cinderace, Zapdos, Keldeo, Fortress, Clodsire, Haxorus, Umbreon, Azumarill, I said that weirdly, Azumarill, Gardevoir, Volbeat, Noctowl, and the mascot Bulbasaur. Yeah, nasty looking team that we are going up against. No Terroring, of course, in this stage of PPL NX. So, who have we got to help take on these threats? Well, starting off with very specially defensive Assault Vest Iron Treads with Earthquake, Knockoff, Volt Switch, and Rapid Spin, looking to take hits from the likes of Zapdos, Gardevoir, Noctowl, maybe even if that chooses to come, and just get some big hits, get rid of those items with Knockoff as much as possible, get some initiative. The only ground immunity going on there, the only ground immunities I should say, are the Noctowl and the Zapdos, and the only Volt Switch immunity is the Clodsire, and neither of them want to take the other one's hits. So, looking good there. Next up, we have a bulky offensive Kebia Berry Primarina, Moonblast, Hydro Pump, Psychic Noise, and Calm Mind. Kebia Berry on there with our defensive investment should be allowing us to take 2 Poison Jabs from Haxorus, or at least 1+1 Poison Jab, as well as any hits from the Clodsire that will come in on that as well, maybe even a Gunk from the Cinderace. Calm Mind, get some Moonblasts going, get some Hydros going, try and keep stuff like the Zapdos, the Clodsire, maybe even the Noctowl in check with Psychic Noise. Then we have Ockerberry on our Ogerpon, our regular form Ogerpon, coming in with Ivy Cudgel, Rock Tomb, Play Rough, and Swords Dance. Looking to try and break with this guy. The only thing that really wants to take multiple hits is going to be the Fortress, and we should have things for that. Ockerberry will allow us to take a Power Ball from Cinderace and try and Rock Tomb through and hit back with a big Ivy Cudgel if needs be. Then we have Physical Weakness Policy Mesprit with Psycho Cut, Drain Punch, Fire Punch, and Stealth Rock. We can get a Stealth Rock up fairly easily here, and try and have that weakness policy procced by the likes of a U-turn from the Cinderace, or the Zapdos even, maybe even like a Foul Play or something from the Umbreon. We'll be able to do some work there. Shadow Ball from Gardevoir or Noctowl, any of these kind of things should be proccing that weakness policy. We can try and get some health back with the Drain Punch, take out the Fori with Fire Punch. Psycho Cut is pretty good across the board as well. Fifth up is going to be a bit of an experimental set. We have Citrus Berry Hydreigon here with Sub Belch. Also rocking Draco Meteor and Focus Blast. I am envisaging a switch into this thing is going to be likely the Azumarill, so we can try and get a sub up. Scout out a set with Focus Blast, looking to see if it's Assault Vest or anything like that. Proc our Citrus Berry and then go for a big old Belch to get some huge damage onto that guy, Draco Meteor. Outside of that is looking fairly useful to get some big hits. Focus Blast on there to hit the Fortress neutrally, as well as the Umbreon for big damage. Final member of the team is our second weakness policy user. Oh yes, we have a very physically bulky Jolteon with enough physical defense in there to comfortably live an Earthquake from the Clodsire. Try and proc that weakness policy, get a Calm Mind going and hit with Stored Power, which, although the boost won't be taken into account, is unaware, we'll still be able to get a big Psychic hit off. Thunderbolt and Alluring Voice on there for good coverage across the board. So that is the team we are rocking. Let's get into the team matchup and see what KSaun has decided to bring against us. So KSaun has decided to bring Fortress, Zapdos, Haxorus, the Cinderace, Clodsire, and Azumarill going on there. Pretty threatening looking team, looking like it's fairly good for getting hazards up against me. I want to lead with the Mesprit here. I can get an assault, a weakness policy proc early maybe, or just get up my rocks if the matchup dictates that's the best way to go. So that's what we're going with. Let's see how the match goes. So, here we go. First game of PPL NX up against KSaun and the Toronto Razor Leafs. There he is. He is going to start off with the Zapdos. We, as I say, are going with Mesprit here. Now, I do want to get my rocks up as early as possible. There is always the chance that, given the presence of my Iron Treads, they might be running U-turn. So I'm going to go for Stealth Rock, see if we can get them up, and maybe get an early Weakness Policy proc if U-turn is the option that they decide to go for. So, Rock's going to go up nice and early, turn 1. Very happy to see that on my opponent's side, as in comes the Hurricane. That is going to get a frame 1 miss, so we do get a bit fortunate there. Really remains to be seen how much that would have done. We have no real information on this Zapdos as to whether it is bulky or as to whether it is offensive, but we did outspeed, and we're not rocking max speed on this Mesprit, so it seems likely that it is more of a bulky build. Now, seeing this, I do want to potentially make the switch into my Iron Treads and try and get a knockoff. If this thing is boots, I want to get rid of those so it can't be switching in as freely as it might want. So, gonna pull Mesprit on back out of there and go into my Iron Treads. This might be the option for them to go for a Volt Switch, and as you see, that's exactly what is going to happen. This is fine. We've seen Hurricane, we've seen Volt Switch. Now, Heat Wave is an option, but I do have an AV. I'm very specially defensive, so I should be taking that hit really well indeed. That in mind, I am just going to go for the knockoff. If this thing is boots, I want to get rid of those and try and force this thing out so that it's taking consistent damage every time it comes back in.
Understood. Alright, he's getting a bit ahead of himself. Let's activate the burn.
So we are going to outspeed. This is a very no-speed Zapdos, evidently. Get rid of those boots, which is super nice. In is going to come the Heat Wave. We do take it incredibly well, and we get a burn so early onto Iron Treads. That is massively unfortunate. Didn't want to see that in the slightest. So turn 3, already our Iron Treads is burned. That is not great. There is very little I can do to this Zapdos. My best option is to just Volt Switch out and try and, you know, position myself a little bit better than we already are. So, gonna Volt Switch. Excuse me, bit of a cough today. Yeah, unfortunate that we've got the burn so early onto Iron Treads, but that is, you know, the game we play. Now I have to find something to switch into this Zapdos. It's looking like it could be a potential sort of bulky offensive build, possibly with just those 3 attacks and Roost. Hydreigon is looking to be one of the better options to switch in here. So far, you know, 2 of those 3 moves that we've seen aren't going to be doing all that much, and if the Hurricane comes in and takes us below half, we'll be proccing that Citrus Berry super early. So it is going to be the Hydreigon that we go into. Opponent here, just going to go for the Heat Wave, is going to proc another miss, which is unfortunate, but it really wouldn't have done all that much, I'm not imagining. At this point, the Azumarill is a fairly free switch-in, I would say. Probably the best option that KSaun has. With that in mind, I am just going to pop a sub, scout out what he wants to go into on this, and then maybe go for that Focus Blast. It won't do much, but it should allow me to see whether the presumed Azumarill switch-in is like Banded or Assault Vest or anything like that. So, as we see the Zapdos switch on out, and it is going to be that Azumarill that comes in. This is kind of the position we wanted to be in. Takes the rocks damage, so it's not boots or anything. We are going to proc that sub. And as I say, I'm just going to go for the Focus Blast. They say don't waste a good sub. But honestly, even though there's not much I can do to the Azumarill at this point, I may as well go for the Focus Blast. Just in case it wants to go for Belly Drum, for example. But as I said before, going Focus Blast is going to allow me to at least scout out something of what this set is all about. So Focus Blast is going to come in. We are going to land it at the very least, and that is going to do very, very little damage indeed. Looking like we could be seeing an Assault Vest Azumarill going on here, and that was a crit, so that shows even more how bulky this thing is. Player Off is of course going to break our Substitute, and now I have a couple of options. We are definitely seeing that it's Assault Vest, and judging by that, it's looking like even if I get my Belch off, it's not going to Oko the Azumarill from here. I do want to keep this Hydreigon around. So with that in mind, I'm going to have to make a switch out here and go into something that can take a play rough. Now, that something is actually going to be my Iron Treads. It is burnt, it is fairly surplus to requirements, but if I can get some knockoffs going, that would be very useful. Going to go for a knockoff of their own here. Very good play on their part, predicting the switch out, of course. Gets rid of my Assault Vest, so now Iron Treads is even less useful. At this point, I can either go for a knockoff or a Volt Switch. Knockoff would seem to be probably the better play. There is every chance that I could be going for something like a Steel Beam here, so whether they want to stay in or not is debatable. But knockoff or Volt Switch, either one of those would be fairly good plays to make here, I think. But swerved! We're not doing that at all. We're actually just going to hard switch out of there. And we are going to pull the double into Ogerpon, as the switch out on my opponent's side also comes off, and in is going to come the Fortress. This is not ideal for me. Really should have gone for Volt Switch there. It would have been a best play, or indeed knockoff. At this point, there is very much nothing I can do to a Fortress, and I don't have U-turn, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to pull a hard switch here. Ivy Cudgel, even on a crit, will be doing nothing. Rock Tomb, pretty much equally so. But I have a few things that I can try and go into on this Fortress. The Iron Treads is always an option, just to get in there ahead of the hazards, just in case they want to try and hazard stack me with Spikes and Stealth Rock and all that kind of nasty gubbins. Now, in actual fact, the play is going to be going back into my Hydreigon. I'm predicting hazards. I can try and get a sub up and activate my Belch. In fact, they're going to go for Reflect. Didn't see that coming. Always one of those things I forget that Fortress gets are the dual screens. Now, Focus Blast will be doing a goodly amount to it. But what I'm hoping is that I can scare it out with the possibility of a Flamethrower. So, Sub is equally as good a play. But Focus Blast is what I'm going to go for. If they want to stay in and get the light screen up, I can try and get in some big damage ahead of that. So, they're going to get on out of there with the Fortress, not wanting to take a potential Flamethrower. And now in comes the Clodsire. Takes the rocks damage, that's fine. We're going to go for a Focus Blast and land it, and that is going to do nothing. Nothing at all. Looking to be a very specially defensive build of Clodsire. But if that's the case, and they are indeed specially defensive, then Mesprit, even without a weakness policy boost, will be two-shotting with Focus Blast. Sorry, not Focus Blast, Psycho Cut. So that is one to bear in mind here, as something that we might want to try and activate later on down the line. However, not much I can do to this Clodsire with my my Hydreigon. I am going to go back into my Iron Treads as Curse comes off. This is a problem. This is a major problem. Especially defensive Clodsire with Curse is not something that I really want to be dealing with here. So now I'm kind of scrambling a little bit. Earthquake is going to be doing absolutely nothing. I'm burned and they are at +1. There is always the chance they are Sugarberry as well, just to add insult to injury. So now I have to start playing quite aggressively. Now, if they're at +1, something like a Gunk Shot or a Poison Jab will not be KOing my Primarina through my Kebia Berry. And I really need to try and keep this thing in check. So the hard switch into Primarina is a bit risky if they call that and go for the Poison type move, but I really don't think they're going to with an Iron Treads in front of them. So, gonna pull back my Iron Treads. Can't find an opportunity to sack it or get knockoffs going. So in comes Primarina, as in comes the Earthquake from Clod, and that is going to do more than I would like. Nearly half of my health is gone. That is not great. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky. We've seen Earthquake, we've seen Curse. I'm assuming Poison Jab and Recover are the last two moves, but I need to work out if this thing is unaware or if it is Water Absorb. Either way, the best thing that I can do here is go for Psychic Noise. Try and mitigate what this thing can do to me. So in comes the Psychic Noise. That is going to do not as much as I would like, and there it will stop it from going for a cover. Here comes the Poison Jab, as we anticipated it might have, but with my Kebia Berry, even at +1, we are going to take that hit, thankfully. So Primarina It's not going to do as much work as I would like this game by the looks of things, but this was absolutely necessary to make sure that I could keep this thing in check. Now, assuming that he is going to be water absorb and not unaware, I am going to have to go for the Psychic Noise once again to get this thing down as low as possible. It would be a weird interaction to go for Hydro Pump because it actually wouldn't get the water absorb because of the Psychic Noise. But I can't take that risk. I need to get consistent damage on this thing, so Psychic Noise is going to be the best play. It's going to at least hit everything. There is no Umbreon on my opponent's side, which is nice. But yeah, Psychic Noise is going to be the thing I go for. If it wants to stay in and take us out, then it's going to be easily revengeable. Now, that is not a risk that KSaun wants to take. They are going to get out of there with Clodsire, and they are going to go back into the Azumarill. That big AV set going on there takes a bit of rocks damage, which is nice. We're going to go for the Psychic Noise, and that is going to take it down below half, which at the very least finally puts it in range of Belch if we can get that off with the Hydreigon. But now I kind of have to work out what I want to die, essentially. Something is pretty much going to have to go down here, I'm imagining. Moonblast is a play that I can make, but it's whether they want to potentially take more damage on Azumarill and claim their kill, or whether they just want to get out of there and try and go into a resistance. I'm going to click Moonblast just as the best play I can make here. There's nothing I really want to switch in at this point. I don't see this as a potential opportunity to sack my Iron Treads yet. I'm going to have to pick my moment there. In comes the Moonblast. That is going to so nearly take out the Azumarill. It is down at a very low range of health. They're going to go for the Liquidation, and that is going to pick up the first KO of the game. Down goes Primarina, but thankfully this Azumarill can no longer switch out because of the rocks, unless they can get rid of those with the Fortress. I'm going to have to go into something to directly pressure this, and this might be an opportunity to maybe get my Belch going with Hydreigon. What I'm actually going to try and do is get Ogerpon on the board. Again, it's debatable whether they're going to see any real reason to save this Azumarill, unless they're very confident that they can get a spin-off later with the Fortress potentially to bring this thing in and start aquajetting stuff. Either way, I am just going to go for the Ivy Cudgel and hope they leave Azumarill in just to sack it off and get a better positioning on their end. Now, they are in fact going to save the Azumarill here, clearly thinking that they can get a spin-off, and in comes indeed that Fortress. Going to take a little bit of chip damage from the hazards. Ivy Cudgel is going to come in and do just nothing. Absolutely nothing. There was a Reflect Up anyway, just to mitigate that even further. But now I have to react to this Fortress. Looking like it might be dual screens. It could have a hazard on there. More likely is that it's going to have a Rapid Spin. I don't have an absolute concrete way of taking this thing out outside of Fire Punch. So what I'm going to do is make the play out with Ogerpon and go back into my Hydreigon here as in comes the Light Screen. That is a little bit unfortunate. I was hoping that they might go for the Reflect instead so I could get in and try and get a big Focus Blast off before they got that going. But this is a pretty free substitute for me, and that will activate our Citrus Berry and get Belch going. Unfortunately, it's not looking like the Belch tech is going to be particularly useful, as the Azumarill is dead on switching. So Fortress is going to withdraw. Get on out there and save it for another day, as in once again is going to come that very annoying Clodsire, as we are just going to go for a substitute. Now we're going to get that Citrus Berry and take us back to exactly the range of health we were already at, but we've already kind of assessed that this is a specially defensive Clodsire, and now there is a Light Screen up. This would seem like an optimal time for them to go for a Recover, which would be really annoying. The only real chance of Hydreigon taking it out here is with a crit Draco Meteor, and those aren't necessarily odds that I really want to roll the dice on. Now, it is a Light Screen that is up and not a Reflect, which means that hard switching into my Mesprit on the predicted Recover is a pretty good play, and there indeed is that Recover. So Clodsire is back up to a full range of health nearly, but really can't afford to be setting up on me. I am going to go for the Psycho Cut. As I say, he's looking to be a specially defensive one. and it's light screen up, not reflect, so Psycho Cut should be two-shotting here. And really, there's not a whole huge amount that wants to take 2 hits from this particular Mesprit. So once again, the Clodsire is going to get on out of dodge, not wanting to take a Psychic type hit, and in is going to come the Zapdos. Now, this is going to put it below half from the rocks. Psycho Cut is going to come in, and that is looking like a 2-shot, and as we know, we absolutely outspeed, so I lock into Psycho Cut immediately, looking to at least try and get ourselves on the board. Mesprit looking like it can pressure my opponent's team quite significantly. And as we know, the Zapdos is slow, it is now dead to Stealth Rocks. There is very little that he can do here, other than just sacking it off. However, clearly my opponent is confident they can get a spin off, or they're just saving Zapdos for fodder. Now in comes the Fortress. We're going to go for Psycho Cut, and that's going to do precious little damage. However, what they don't know is that we're also carrying the Fire Punch for exactly this scenario. And there indeed is that Fire Punch. That is going to take out the Fortress from there, which is great. Those rocks on my opponent's side, they're there to stay, and that looks to be the end of any light screen reflect shenanigans that they can go for. Mesprit looking in a good position, gets our first KO of the season, which is nice. And now we are going to be able to see what KSaun is going to go in to directly threaten this guy. Any number of things that it could be, seeing that we're physical, it could be the Haxorus. More likely is looking like the Cinderace, and as you'll see, it's that latter option that they choose to go for. Now, they're clearly not heavy-duty boots. This is potentially problematic if they're a boosting item, because I can see a U-turn in my immediate future. But it shouldn't kill no matter what the set is, so I'm going to stay in, I'm going to go for Psycho Cut on the potential U-turn, see if we can't proc our weakness policy and get that going. So in indeed does come that Libero U-turn, and that is going to do far more than I'm comfortable with, and the reason is because that is Choice Banded Cinderace. That is a problem. It is going to proc our weakness policy, which is nice, but for the fact that there are 2 ready-made sacks to rocks waiting in the back in the form of Zapdos and Azumarill, and this tactic can be used multiple times now to get around stuff exactly like this. It is unfortunate. Realistically, what I should have actually done there was gone for Drain Punch, just in case the Sucker Punch came our way. As it is, that's not the case, and as you'll see, it is going to be the Azumarill sack that comes in from KSaun. So down goes Azumarill to the rocks. Mesprit is going to pick up a second KO there, but it's going to be all rather for naught, because the Cinderace can just come in and click U-turn again and take me out, and realistically, this Mesprit is what I need to take out that Clodsire. So once again, in is going to come that Cinderace, and unfortunately, I really can't stay in here. I have to get out of there. Mesprit is so necessary to at least get a big hit off on the Clodsire. At this point, Tread Flanders is looking incredibly surplus to requirements. It has been since basically the start of the match. So that would seem to be probably my best option. But there is also the option of going into the Jolteon. It's very physically bulky, it will take the U-turn. So either one of those is looking to be a bit of an option here. In the end, what I choose to do is go into the Jolteon, I believe, and there is very good reasoning behind that. So, as I say, going to get out of there with the Mesprit needing to maintain at least some health on that for the Clod, and I'm going to go into my Jolteon. Now, as I say, I am fairly physically defensively invested. I will take this U-turn. The reason I do this is because if I had gone into the Iron Dread to try and sack it, and the U-turn had come off, Haxorus could come in, set up a Dragon Dance, and just win. I couldn't take that risk of that happening. I needed to get Jolteon in before then, so I had at least a luring voice, if that's what they chose to do. So Jolteon was really kind of, in my mind, saving me from just being immediately swept here. But now, of course, comes the secondary problem of the fact that Clodsire can just come in and start doing nasty Clodsire things. And what do you know? There it is. Now, there is nothing I can do to Clodsire with Jolteon. The light screen is gone at the very least, but at this kind of range of health, I won't be taking an Earthquake to proc my weakness policy anymore. Now, what I should have done here was gone hard Mesprit. That was always the play. Unfortunately, I choose not to do that, and I'm going to go into my Hydreigon as the curse comes in. Mesprit was always the play there. I needed to get it in before this thing started setting up too much, and at least get some consistent damage with Psycho Cut, which is a high crit chance move as well, and try and deal with it. But with no light screen up, I am going to go into my Hydreigon, and I am going to try, at least, and drop a Draco on this thing. We still don't technically know whether it is unaware or water absorbed. We haven't confirmed that. So there is every chance that I can drop a Draco and then just keep on going. If they're unaware, they'll ignore my special attack drops, and we might be able to 2-hit KO. So, desperately wishing I was Earth Power, I drop a Draco, and that is going to do under half of what they've got left, unfortunately. In is going to come the Poison Jab. That is not going to kill. But now, this is where I really need to work out if they're unaware or water absorb. We're going to go for the Draco Meteor, and it does nothing. They are indeed the water absorb set that I was kind of anticipating. And unfortunately, KSaun is just going to be able to go for the very safe recover. And now we are in a pickle, essentially. I am very much scrambling here. There's not a whole huge amount I can do. What I really need is, unfortunately, to play to land some crits, but Draco Meteor is not the move to go for that Gambit with. I am going to try for the Draco crit though, even though it's really not in my best interest to do so, because now in comes the secondary recover. I really should have been going to Mesprit just so many turns ago. Just so many turns ago is when I should have gone into Mesprit. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out that way, and now this thing is back to full health. It has a curse up, and things are looking, how do I put this, bad. Now, several turns too late, I am going to make the play into my Mesprit, anticipating another curse to come out, and that's what happens. They have no reason not to be setting up multiple curses here. Now, Psycho Cut is a high crit chance move, and I'm pretty sure a crit will just clean out this thing, or at the very least, make it very, very revengeable. So Psycho Cut is going to be the player to go for. There is a +2 Poison Jab coming my way. This is the only hit that Mesprit is going to get off in this for the rest of this game. So we're going to have to try and make it count here. In comes the Psycho Cut. We are not going to get the critical hit, unfortunately. In is going to come the Poison Jab, and Clodsire is going to claim victim. Down goes Mesprit, and now, more so than ever, we kind of just have to get lucky. And now in comes Jolteon. Honestly, not overly sure why I did this. There is nothing I can do. They're not going to mess around at this point. I don't really see the need for them to. Stored Power has no boosts. It is a 20 base power move. It is going to do nothing. But my thought process here towards actually getting rid of this thing is kind of that I need to crit with something, and realistically that is probably going to have to be the Ogerpon. So at this point I'm kind of just not really sure what I'm doing, to be honest. Let's have a watch and see what I do. Calm Mind is not a play, because Earthquake will just kill. We're going to click Stored Power and go for a 20 base power move and do approximately 3 points of damage. In comes the Poison Jab. That sure is going to take out Jolteon from there, isn't it? So now, what are the pieces we have left? Well, we have Ogerpon at full with a high crit chance move. We have Hydreigon, which looks to be one of my most damaging mons left. And we have an Iron Treads that is burned and really can't do any damage to this thing. So, answer in the comments, which one do we go into?
Yes, sir. Looks like the Clodsire is doing the work for us. Yes. Seen someone paying a lot of money to make that happen. We're on schedule. Over and out. Alright. Let's wrap this up quickly.
It's the Iron Treads, of course, because why start making sense now? Literally nothing that this Iron Treads can even come close to doing, outside of just critting with an Earthquake and doing maybe 20 damage instead of 10. That is the move I'm going to go for. I don't think it makes all that much sense in my head watching it back now, but that's what we're locked in with. Let's see how much damage we do. And he shook a berry, just in case being burned with no investment and him at +2 wasn't quite enough, and that does approximately 7 points of damage in total. And he is going to go for Curse again. I was a little bit annoyed at that. I was like, at this point I was kind of just like, just end it. Just kill me. Make the suffering stop. So I am just going to pull a switch here, funnily enough, I think, into my Ogerpon. Because there's definitely not a poison jab coming my way. My thinking is I absolutely have to crit this guy. And it has to be Ogerpon that does it first. So I'm hoping to come in on an Earthquake, and there's the recover, and I was like, dude, don't BM me. In hindsight, this was the safest play they could have made, just in case of the crit. So, no bad blood at all. Here's the thing, I have to crit with Ivy Cudgel and then finish off with Hydreigon, and then save my Iron Treads to sack so that I can get back to neutral special attack. If I try to crit with Draco Meteor first, then my opponent is just going to recover. That is the best play they can make. What I have to do is crit through with Ivy Cudgel, let them take me out, and then kill with Draco. So, we're going to go for the Ivy Cudgel, and we are going to crit through. In comes the Poison Jab. That is, of course, going to take out Ogerpon, but this is kind of what I needed to give me any chance here, because now they are in range of Draco Meteor. I can go into it, get the Draco off, then switch out and sack Iron Treads, and come back with at least a neutral special attack Hydreigon to give me the best possible chance of even trying to do something in this game. So, we are going to lock in on Draco Meteor, take this guy out, and see if we can go from there. So there's the Draco Meteor, and it does what it does best. Draco Meteor is going to miss. Because why wouldn't it? Oh man, that was unfortunate. Deeply, deeply unfortunate. We can't even have the satisfaction of taking out the Clodsire because we just missed the Draco Meteor. I'm going to go into my Iron Treads. I'm going to pick Earthquake. It is going to do 3 points of damage. We still can't even get the kill. And finally, after turn 3 of being burned, Iron Treads is finally put out of its misery. Down it goes. Clodsire is the winner. And that is going to be the game. So yeah, rough start to this season, man. Really rough start. I mean, KSaun, I was pissed. Not at KSaun, it has to be said. I was pissed at how the game went. It just didn't go my way. Partly due to a bit of hacks, but mostly due to just my own ineptitudes. So nothing against KSaun. He brought a very good team, some excellent sets, and played it very, very well indeed. So we do get our campaign off to a pretty rough loss. But the only way is up from here. So we're going to go into our next game and just take them one at a time. Well played to KSaun and Clodsire. Here's links down in the description below. Make sure you check them out. Check out the content. Check out everything. But yeah, we take a loss. We move. That's all that can be said. I'm getting out of here. I've rambled on for very much far too long. What a long game that was. My final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.